So today we'll be looking at chapter 4 of section 2, talking about applications of equations. So in this section, we'll kind of basically look at word problems, and we're going to be taking out what we need and throwing away what we don't need. All right? Pretty much reading math in sentence form and going from sentence form to actually expression form. So some objectives for today is to translate phrases into mathematical expressions, write equations from a given information, then solve application problems. So to translate phrases into mathematical expressions, word problems are often have certain phrases that occur again and again. It says the key to solving word problems is to correctly translate these expressions into mathematical expressions. So basically, reading through the problem, seeing what the unknowns are, and seeing what you're trying to obtain. All right? So let's look at this first example. It says, write the following verbal expressions as mathematical expressions. It says, use X to represent the unknown quantity. Note that the letters can be used to be representative of this unknown quantity. Now, some people use N, some people use X, some people use Y, you can use T. Use the one that they tell you to use in the actual particular question that you're working with. All right, so just keep that in mind. So the first one we have is 5 plus a number. Now, we understand the unknown number is X. So when we look at this, we write it just the way we see it. So it'll be 5 plus X, which X is that number. Now for B, it says add 20 to a number. Now, when it says add 20 to a number, that means the number that we don't know comes first, the unknown quantity comes first, and then you're adding 20 to it. So in this case, you would write it as X plus 20. The first one was what? 5 plus a number. This one is add 20 to a number. So basically, it kind of shows you what the order is. Now, we understand that addition is commutative, all right? And commutative means if I have A plus B is the same as B plus A. Now, it really doesn't matter if you wrote it as 5 plus X or X plus 5. Now, it does matter when you have subtraction, because when you're subtracting something from something is different from doing vice versa, all right? So let's look at some more additives. So it says the sum of a number and 12. So all we're doing is taking the sum. Sum means addition. So X plus 12. And then D says 6 more than a number. Now, 6 more than a number, that means you're taking what? You're taking 6 and you're adding it to that number. So in this case, it'll be X plus 6. Because we know it's 6 more than that number, that unknown number. So let's look at this. So example 2, it says write each expression, all right, write each of the following verbal expressions as mathematical expressions. Use P as the variable. So whatever variable it tells you to use, that's the one you use. Now, if it gives you a problem when it don't tell you to use a certain one, you use whichever one you want to use, all right? So this one, in this case, it says 3 is less than a number. Less than signifies what? Subtraction. So we have P minus 3. Keep in mind, 3 minus P is different from P minus 3, depending on whatever the situation is. All right? So just keep that in mind as well. So we have a number decreased by 14. So we have P minus 14. And then we have 10 fewer than P. All right? So that would be 10 minus P. I mean, P minus 10, sorry. 10 fewer than P. All right? That means that what? Whatever P is less than what? Whatever that 10 is, right? Or whatever that number that that unknown number that you're finding, right? So just keep that in mind. So when you're talking with subtraction, you may see less than, you may see decrease by, or you may see fewer than. Now keep in mind, when we go over these basic concepts, it's because you're going to see it in a bigger concept with an actual word problem itself. All right, so just always keep in mind that these basic concepts are for a bigger concept. All right, but it makes the bigger concept easier if you can recognize the basic concept in the bigger concept. All right. So let's look at example 3. So in this particular example, we're going to do the same thing. Now with this, instead of looking at subtraction or addition, we're looking at multiplication. So let's look at some context when it comes to multiplication. All right, it says the product of a number and 3. And it tells us to use y as the variable. You'll see in the corner there. All right, so this would just be 3y. Now, you don't have to put the multiplication sign in between 3 and the variable. You just put them together and you know that's multiplication. All right, so you have that constant term, and then you have your other term, your variable term, and you just put them together. That's 3 times y. So normally we just say 3y. All right. And then we have 4 times the number, which would be 4 times y, or 4y. And then this one says we have 7 is multiplied by the difference of an unknown number and 14. All right. So we have 7 parentheses y minus 14. See, in that one, it gave you a couple of things that you had to look at. It says 7 is multiplied by the difference of an unknown number and 14. The unknown number is y, and you subtract 14 from it, then you multiply by what? 7. All right? So they give you another context of how something can be written, and you have to write it, all right, from these expressions. Do I have any questions about these? So when you're dealing with multiplication, you might see the product of a number times, or you may see multiplied. And there's some more other words that you possibly see as well, but these are like the main ones. All right. All right, good. So I want you to take a minute and see if you can translate what's being written here. And then I want to see if you can actually solve it out. So take a few minutes and do that. So when we look at this, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. The first thing we have to see is it says translate the product of 5 and a number decreased by what? 8 is 100. Now that is equal to, all right? So let's rewrite this. So we have the product, which is 5. And then we have parentheses, because we understand that number is decreased by what? 8. So it's going to be y minus 8. And then this is said is equal to 100. If it's a is something, that means it's equal to something. All right? So this context brings out a few different things. If you see is something, this is something, that means it's equal to that. All right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to solve this out. Now, it's different ways you can solve this out, all right? But I'm going to take you around this route. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply inside of the parentheses, all right? So when I say multiply, we're going to distribute that 5 and multiply times y, and then times what? 8. So we have 5 times y minus 8 times 5. Now, and I understand I could have went on ahead and multiplied that, but we're showing what we did. All right, so I have 5y minus what? 40 is equal to 100.
Is this where you start the moving process of moving this, okay, over to the right?
So the next thing we're going to do is do what? We're going to take 40 and add it to the other side. So we're going to take our 40, and I'm talking about all of this. We're going to move it over here. So we're going from negative to what? Positive. So instead of doing subtraction, we're going to do what? Addition. So once I move it, I'm going to have 5y is equal to 100, and I'm going to have plus 40. So this would be 5y is equal to 140. So now, to get rid of multiplication, I have to what? Divide. So I'm going to take my 5 and divide it onto the other side. So I'm going to have y is equal to the 140 divided by 5. And what is that equal to? 28. So your unknown variable or your unknown thing is going to be 28. So y is equal to 28. Do I have any questions about that? All right. So let's look at this next problem. All right, so this problem says write the sum of an unknown and 6 when divided by 15 is equal to 7. It says as an equation using r as the variable. So when you're doing your homework, make sure you use the right variable that it tells you to use. All right? Make sure you pay attention to that. All right? So you won't get those answers wrong. So the first thing we have to recognize, it says the sum of an unknown and 6.
You're adding.
So we're adding. So we have r plus 6. Now, then it says this is being what? Divided by what? 15. So we know that this whole thing is divided by 15. And then it should equal 7. Now, if I want to get rid of division, I have to do what? Multiply. So I'm going to have r plus 6 is equal to 7 times 15. Now, what is 7 times 15? Put that in the calculator. What's 7 times 15?
Oh, 105.
105. So now, I'm adding by 6. I have to what? Subtract. So I'm going to move this to this other side, and I'm going from addition to subtraction. So r is equal to 105 minus 6. So r is equal to what? 99. Good. All right. So we have some steps to solving application problems. So step 1, read the problem carefully and sketch. A sketch may help depending on what the problem is. It says identify the unknown, then choose a variable to represent it. It says, if possible, write any other unknowns in the terms of the same variable. And then it says translate the problem into an equation because you want to solve for the what? Unknown. And we do have more steps. Then it says solve the equation, answer the questions asked for the problem, check your solution using the original words in the problem, and then be sure that your answer is reasonable. So basically make sure your answer makes sense, right? It's not a hard process, but you have to make sure you read. Because if you skip over or skim through, you might miss certain words. All right, that'll be useful in that problem. All right. So we got us a nice word problem here. All right. So it says Ben needs to estimate demand for relatively new Chevrolet Silverado electric pickup. It says in 2 different regions of the country. It says he has 14,200 new Silverados to ship to 2 regions. He says he decides to ship 3,350 more to Southeast region than the Mid-Atlantic Coast region. It says find the number to ship to the Mid-Atlantic region coast. All right. So we have to pull some things out. Now you can pick your unknown being whatever you want to pick it. All right. So let's say now it says find the number to be shipped in what? Mid-Atlantic coast. So that's our unknown. So let's go there. So number 2. And I'm gonna just say Mid-Atlantic coast region. And I'll move this up. So our unknown in this case, let's say it was M. Does not matter, all right? Now, I have to also understand that we know that they're shipping 3,350 more Silverados to what?
To the Mid-Atlantic coast region.
To the Southeast region, right? So, basically, we have the Southeast region. So number 2, the Southeast region. And this is all one word. All right. So it'll be my M plus what? 3,350. If we look at it in that sense, because we know that we're getting that many more than what we are getting to what? The Mid-Atlantic. So we know that the total amount of Silverados that they have is how many? 14,200. So out of all those words, we basically just use that line right, these few lines right here, right? 14,200 gave us the total. Then we understand that they are being shipped 3,350 more to the Southeast region than Mid-Atlantic. So that's why our unknown is M, which is Mid-Atlantic, and then M plus 3,350 would be our Southeast region. So now what we're going to do is we're going to solve it. So we're going to write it out. So we have pretty much M plus 3,350 is equal to 14,200. Now, M plus M is just what? 2M. 2M. Plus the 3,350. And that's equal to the 14,200. So now we're going to subtract that 3,350 to the other side. So I'm at 2M is equal to 14,200 minus my 3,350. Put that in the calculator, tell me what you get when you subtract. So do 14,200 minus my 3,350. And how much would that give me? 10,850. Good. So just to have a little bit more room, I'm going to all right. So now I'm going to take this and then I'm going to divide. So M is equal to my 10,850 divided by 2. And then what happens when I subtract that? How much do I get? I mean, divide that, how much do I get? So when you divide this by 2, you get what? 5,425. So we see that there are going to be 5,425 units that's going to what? The Mid-Atlantic. All right? So we got 5,425 units that's there, or Silverados that are going to the Mid-Atlantic. Now, if we wanted to know how many is going to the the southeast region, all we would do is add that to the 3,350. So we'll have the 5,425 plus my 3,350.
8,775.
And that's going to give me 8,775. So we know that that's how many is going to the southeast region. All right, take a few minutes and I want you to see if you can do this problem. So we have a mattress for a single bed is on sale for $200, which is 4/5 of its original price. So let's look and find the original price. So we know that we have P, let's say use P as our original price. Then we'll multiply that times our 4/5. And we say that that's equal to what? The 200. You can write this different ways, all right? So we just basically have 4/5 times P is equal to 200. Now, I'm gonna just do it step by step, all right? So since I'm dividing by 5, I'm going to multiply by 5. So this would be 4P is equal to my 200 times 5. Now you could have multiplied by the reciprocal of the fraction, but I'm gonna just do it step by step. So if I got 4P, what is 5 times 200? What's 5 times 200? 1,000. Then we have P is equal to 1,000 divided by 4. So if we do 1,000 divided by 4, what is that? How much money we got? How much money did it cost? $250. So the original price was $250. So P was equal to $250. So our original price is $250. Any questions about these particular problems? Yes. So let's look at this one. All right, so it says the Eastside Nursery ordered 27 small trees, seedlings. Some of the seedlings were elms, costing $17 each. It says the remainder of the seedlings were maple at $11 each. The total cost of the seedlings was $375. Find the number of elms and the number of seedlings, and the number of maples. So we got to find the number of elms and the number of maples. So let's take a minute so we can write this out. Let's look at what we got. So we have elms and we have maples. Now, the first thing we're going to do is write what the cost of it is. So we know the cost of the elms is what? $17 per seedlings. All right, each. And then we know the cost of the maples is $11. And we can make sure we signify that by putting dollar signs to know that's money. Now, we also need to know, we're trying to find the number of seedlings. All right, so I'm going to signify my unknown as X. And then I have my other unknown is what? 27 minus whatever, how many of those I have, right? Because it says we ordered what? 27 of them. So that's where the 27 comes from. So if we would think about the total cost, it'd be what? The $17 times how many that I have, which would be 17x. And then this would be what? The $11 times the whatever I have of these type of maples, right? Now my question to you is, when we were to write this out, we'll just have what? 17x plus my 11 times 27 minus x, and that'll be equal to what? 375. Because the total price is 375. That's how much they spent. And guess what we're going to do with this? Solve it out. So make sure you got your calculator out because we're going to solve this out. So we all have 17x. And then this is going to be plus, what's 11 times 27? You said what? 297. And then it's minus 11x. And that's equal to my 375. All right, so now from here is we're going to look at like terms. We have 17x, and then we have a minus 11x. So 17 minus 11 gives me what? So we have 6x plus 297 is equal to 375. So now I'm about to take that 297 and subtract it to the other side. So I have 6x is equal to 375 minus 297. So we have 6x is equal to what? 78. And now I have x is equal to 78 divided by 6, which gives me what? 13. So that means that I got 13 elms, right? So elms, I have 13. And then to figure out the number of maples I got, it'd be 27 minus my 13, which is how many? 14. So I have 13 elms, and then I have 14 maples.